It's a special meeting, not a regular meeting, of the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee. This meeting's being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Copies of the printed agenda are available in the wall pockets as you enter the room. The public will be recognized to ask questions, make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. I will recognize an individual a second time after everyone else has had a chance to speak. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room, identify yourself by name and address prior to speaking. Our minute taker is participating remotely this evening. Committee members, remember to turn on your microphones, and they will remind you if you don't. I note that we are minus Councilor Favelis, who has school obligations, but we do have a quorum, so we will continue. Therefore, I call to order this meeting. If there is no objection, we have a long-distance individual this evening. I'd like to move his issue up. Public Works Director, which one? Where is he?
Number 4.
Yeah, item 4, a request for an access easement across city-owned land in the town of Swansea. So, any objections?
All good.
Good, okay, shouldn't be long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director, and thank you to the committee for making yourselves available this evening. I know it's not everybody's desire to be here the week of Thanksgiving, but I somehow suspect that you all are going to want Christmas Eve off, so it was important to have one of these meetings, so we will proceed. The item number 4 on your agenda tonight is a request from Eversource to authorize them, or to authorize the city manager to grant an easement across city-owned property, and to the projection is, if we could bring up the screens, please. This is well, I'm going to catch myself. The driveway to the wastewater treatment plant, sometimes referred to in the popular press as Airport Road. As you know, that it is an active commercial driveway. Eversource Utilities has a utility line, a transmission line, and I'm just going to show it here on the screen. You can see it here, that's light-colored shading. That is where their transmission line runs from the Emerald Street substation down into Swansea and points south. They access that today, you know, as needed for maintenance, at 2 locations. One is actually shown here on Google Maps as a road. It's not a road, but if I do the street view thing, you can see there's a driveway, a gravel path into the woods. That's actually there because that's where our force main runs. For most of the length of the airport road, it follows the roadway. But this is the point where it comes in from the cross-country section and then enters the roadway right away, if you will. They use that same gravel access to get to the transmission line. The second location that they access, close out of this. The second location that they access is closer down to the plant. You can see that's open field here. It's directly to the west of our solar array. They go through that field, and you can't see it in the aerial imagery, but there is a path that runs up through the woods here and comes out onto their right-of-way. So what they're asking for is a permanent access agreement, or permanent easement, excuse me, to be able to use Airport Road and then these existing access points to maintain their system. It won't affect any traffic on Airport Road. It won't affect our ability to conduct operations at the plant. And we think it really has no impact on us whatsoever. So we recommend granting that easement. And with that, I will answer any questions, or Joseph, I'm gonna murder your name.
Everyone does. Hobecki.
Hobecki, okay. Joe Hobecki from Eversource Utilities. He's our regional municipal representative, our sort of coordinator, if you will, and helps us with a lot of issues, and he's here to answer any questions you might have as well.
Any committee questions?
Oh, pretty clear.
Sounds pretty clear. Any public, or I don't see any counselors present? Maybe.
All good.
Sounds good. I guess, how about a motion? Sorry, how far did you travel for this event?
I live in Bedford, sir.
Could be worse.
Yeah, that could be worse, sure.
Yes.
I move that the Municipal Services and Facilities and Infrastructure Committee recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate, execute, and record a deed for a permanent access easement benefiting Public Service Company of New Hampshire, DBA Eversource Energy, across city-owned land in the town of Swansea.
Second?
Second by Counsel Filio. Anything from the committee? Public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That was easy. Have a nice trip back. Thank you. All like that. Okay, back to the agenda. Item 1 is a communication from Mike Pappas, a petition regarding Magnolia Way residents, a request for discontinuance and removal of a sidewalk on Magnolia Way. Good evening.
Hello, Mike Pappas. Just representing the landowners out there and on Magnolia Way. Since we've started the project, you know, the houses that we've put in obviously fit all the requirements. The ones on the north side of the property, the sidewalk that was put in before we purchased the property seems to just not fit in. It doesn't allow proper driveways. People are parking on the sidewalk. You know, standard size cars, small Toyota trucks, they're halfway on the sidewalk. It doesn't allow a decent yard for these folks. You know, the other side does not have it. I know the next street up, which is Bergeron Ave, that doesn't have sidewalks as well. And I know there's an incoming rotary at the intersection of Matthews Road and such. And this would be a sidewalk leading to, I'm not gonna say nowhere, but leading to a very congested rotary. And everyone on the street has agreed to the concept of removing the sidewalk. Just wanted to come and see if we could do something about that.
Okay, committee questions? Okay, Public Works Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucia, Public Works Director. I'm going to filibuster while Brian comes up, and Mike, if you don't mind.
Well, whoever.
Yeah, he may need the chair.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to first apologize. I met with the city attorney yesterday afternoon, and she correctly pointed out that the process in the code requires that the city engineer is actually supposed to issue a written recommendation to the city council on questions of waivers. And I, quite frankly, forgotten that that was the requirement. So Brian has prepared a written recommendation he's going to talk to you about tonight. I put a copy of it on your desks here. And that will, the city clerk will be adding that to the agenda packet for next week's city council meeting. So we will have completed that process. But we didn't want to hold this up for another cycle. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian to give you his recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Brian Ruff, City Engineer. To analyze the waiver request, it's most germane to discuss the background involved in this development. The Magnolia Way subdivision was approved by the Keene Planning Board in 2006 as part of the project. Keene City Council, acting at the time, approved the acceptance of the public infrastructure proposed as part of that project, including the road, sidewalk, drainage, water, and sewer. Construction began that year but was not completed. and it was accepted for public maintenance prior to the expiration of the council's 36-month project completion deadline. 2011, the developer re-petitioned the city council for reapproval of the layout of the public infrastructure, which was again granted. Once again, some of the construction occurred for the project, but again was not completed prior to the 36-month project completion deadline. Again, in July 6, 2023, City Council voted for a third time to approve the layout of Magnolia Way and the associated public infrastructure and accepting that as part of the proposed project. Since that time, a new development team has made steady progress on the project, addressing the unresolved, uncompleted work so that the city can fully accept the roadway and associated infrastructure. The water and sewer infrastructure to date have been accepted by the city for public maintenance. The work that remains was deferred until the final home was built in order to minimize premature wear and tear to the roadway. For these three iterations of City Council approval, the plans for Magnolia Way have not changed since the original proposal. Subdivision plan shows a 15-foot front setback line, which is still acceptable in the low-density zoning district. The utility plan shows individual house footprints between 20 foot and 40 feet back from the right-of-way, and it appears, based on our inspection, that the development has been constructed to plan to date. The applicable standards that are requesting to be waived are the Article 23.37 of the Land Development Code, which states sidewalks shall be required on at least one side of any proposed street in a residential zoning district. Prior to the adoption of the Land Development Code, the Code of Ordinances had identical language, so this isn't a new requirement. The city's in addition, the city's 2015 Complete Streets Design Guidelines adopted identifies Magnolia Way as a neighborhood street. Neighborhood streets typically call for a 5-foot minimum sidewalk located at least one side of the street. So all the same requirements. So in response to the petitioner's justification for the removal of the sidewalk, to which it is rarely used by the current residents, it's important for the council to understand that it's city infrastructure that is for the life of the public way. Essentially, if the next set of homeowners in this area decide that they want to petition to add a sidewalk, that cost would then be borne by the city and city taxpayers. So just want to make sure that's understood there. With respect to the parking requirements and encroaching in the existing parking areas for the access drives that were, or road access permits that were received for all these lots, the condition was all vehicles need to be parked in the driveway to meet city code. So that isn't really an applicable justification either for the removal of the sidewalk. Based on those conditions in our review, the waiver conflicts with the council's adoption of complete streets guidelines and would create an undesirable precedent for granting waivers based on project-to-project preferences of current homeowners. For these reasons, Public Works recommends that City Council deny the request for this waiver of the sidewalk in question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Before I move any further, I just want to state for the record, and it take her wherever you are, that I have no interest in this property. I mean financial, no listings from my real estate office, and no relationship whatsoever with the owners of the property. So I do not have a conflict. So I just want to get that out there. And if somebody wants to challenge me, that would be fine. But otherwise, now moving on with the question for Public Works, does that sidewalk need to be 5 feet wide?
Yeah, the 5-foot wide sidewalk is a requirement. Prior to adoption of the LDC, it was specifically listed in Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances. With the LDC, more of those requirements were transferred into the Public Works standards rather than into law, essentially. But I would remind you that our sidewalk plows, and we are required to plow all city sidewalks, are 5 feet wide. So making it any less than that would make it impossible for us to maintain, and I can assure you that we won't be out there with shovels.
Okay, and there's sidewalk on one side, the north side, not to be on the south side.
That's correct. That was, as it was originally approved, the sidewalk goes from Winchester Street all the way to the far side of the cul-de-sac.
Okay,
But
I
it doesn't
drove
wrap
over-
around both sides.
I drove over there this afternoon, and, yeah, it's a big sidewalk for a small front lawn.
Yeah.
But I have to weigh the city code against that. Okay, now committee question, yes, Counselor Tobin.
So I just have a couple of questions. One, this is a fairly new development. So like you mentioned, that this is part of the plan. This has been part of the plan. I'm a little confused as to, I guess, how there could not be room for a car in the driveways if this was always the plan. I mean, presumably the driveway would have been made long enough to fit vehicles.
So all of these homes have garages, and they're able to meet their on-site parking requirement because they have garages. So what the city code says is that, and this is in a different section of the city code, but there's a requirement for any single-family home to have at least one on-site parking space per unit. That parking space has to either be behind the front setback line, which is 15 feet in the low-density zone, or behind the building setback, or the building line of the actual structure. The driveways all go up to the face of the garage, so they can't go around the side of the building, so it's that 15-foot setback. Because they have the parking space in the garage, they can have a driveway that's shorter than 18 feet
So they can put their cars in the driveway, essentially.
in the garage.
Or the garage.
Right.
Sorry. Can I ask one more question? Can you clarify how this would, in terms of the Lower Winchester construction, that project, I thought sidewalks were going to be going in that area, is
That's
that
absolutely
correct?
right. Yeah, so,
Okay.
right now, as Mr. Pappas pointed out, there's no sidewalks on Winchester Street in the
Right.
vicinity of Magnolia Way. With the federally funded project that's in design and development right now, there will be sidewalks on that western side, so the same side as Magnolia Way. And the project design shows the new sidewalks connecting into the Magnolia Way sidewalks.
Okay, thanks.
Yes,
She said what I was going to say.
yes. Any public questions, comments? Yes, come on back.
So one of my questions is, midwinter, when we're plowing these, when the city's plowing these sidewalks, do these homeowners' cars have to be moved if they're taking up sidewalk space? That's a question I have, because
Public Works, please.
just so the homeowners know.
Yeah.
And for the
So-
minute taker, that was Mike Pappas.
Sorry.
So it is a violation already to park on top of a sidewalk. And I just looked at the plans. I haven't gone out to measure the actual footprint of the homes. The building setback line is 15 feet, which is, certainly smaller than my truck. All of the plans show that the building footprint is between 20 and 24 feet, or 20 and 44 feet, excuse me. So I'm not sure what the actual distance between the sidewalks and the garages are as constructed. But presumably, yes, they cannot park on the sidewalks.
Okay.
So I guess that's where I'm asking for, some sort of variance here, where if a nose of a car is parked right up in front of a garage, a plow truck is not gonna be able to go down that sidewalk. So that's where I'm looking for some relief. We were allowed to build these houses there. These homeowners have purchased these houses with a complete understanding that they could park a car in front of their garage. And now, in the middle of a winter snowstorm, if they're parked in front of their garage, not in front of their house, sideways, parallel to the road, if they're parked perpendicular to their house, nose on the garage door, those sidewalks will not be able to be plowed by a city plow. So I just find that something's overlapping here. Somewhere, something has slipped through a crack somewhere that this just isn't gonna, it's not gonna be functional. And it gets worse as you go down the line. There's 2 more houses, numbers 1 and 3 Magnolia, that have been built. And their garages and their driveways are even worse than the existing homeowners. So numbers 7 isn't as bad as number 5. Number 5, a Toyota truck is 4 feet onto that sidewalk, parked nose to the driveway, to the garage door. I'm just, now you're limiting these people to having 1 car in their driveway. There's no place to park that car on that city street. It's a home, it's not an apartment. It's a home. People have families, more than 1 car. Typically more than 2 cars. And I'm just wondering how that requirement can't be viewed here as a problem.
Well, city attorney question.
Yes.
All my years, this has not come to council before. Was reviewed by the planning board, site plan review. Should they not be dealing with this in some manner, or a zoning board, or someone? Why is this a council issue?
Two-part answer. For the planning board, as our public works director described, they're gonna just be checking that the minimum requirements are met. With the garages that they have, those minimum requirements are met, so they're not gonna ensure, like, well, what if they want X number of more cars? That's not gonna be the planning board's concern. That would be something else that somebody else have to consider. Second part to that, why is it in front of city council? Because the requirement for these sidewalks is in the land development code in Article 23. There is a process for a waiver from that parks it with city council. So that's why you are seeing it. And while we're on it, I was looking at what it is that you will have to consider. Whether our LDC gives you a nice 4-part test or something like that, doesn't quite say anything for you, other than it's for you to decide. The only restriction is that in no case shall financial hardship be used to justify a waiver. So that's really your only guideline. Otherwise, it's up to you.
So we can't send it to PLD or some other committee?
It doesn't say which committee.
We own it. Okay. All right, committee, questions, comments, thoughts? Yeah.
I guess the way I'm thinking about it, the sidewalk was put there as part of a plan. The buildings were built after. Presumably, they would have, the length of the driveway, they would have known the length of the driveway before the building was put there. So I guess I'm kind of struggling to see how this is suddenly something that's happening. It wasn't like the sidewalk was put in after.
The sidewalk was there first.
Yeah,
And I think what you're saying in reverse is the house could have been put back further.
yeah, the house could have been.
But you can't move the house.
The
So we
house
have the
could have-
reality.
The house could have been put back further, there could have been possibly fewer houses, but this was the way it was designed. And
Okay.
The
Mr.
house,
Pappas,
the house met the requirement. That's the largest house that can be put on those lots. These are 1,500 square foot houses. It's not like we put a 4,000 square foot house and push the envelope. I mean, these are not big houses.
I
So
know.
we maximized the size of house we could put on these lots to make them saleable. Housing's a necessity these days. And again, the next street up doesn't have it. These are small city streets, kind of on the outskirts of the city, if you will. And to maximize the square footage, to have single-family homes, you know, I don't think we didn't go outside that. We wouldn't have been allowed to build there. So we were allowed to build there, but we're allowed to park 1 car. And that's where, I mean, the road's getting paved, the driveways are all something that can be done, you know, due to code. So we pave a driveway, but we can't park in it. And I just have I guess that's why I'm here.
We're in a tou-
Something
we're in
got
a tough-
overlooked. Something got
We're in a
overlooked.
tough decision here. You got it. Yeah.
So I'm hearing, again, I agree with Counselor Tobin on many of her points. This wasn't a new surprise requirement. It's been a requirement since that property has existed. since the development was being planned. What I'm hearing is trucks can't park there. Regular vehicles can fit in the driveway still, no?
It's a very small truck. It's a Toyota truck. The truck, I mean, I
Right,
could show
but-
you a picture right now. It's a very, very small truck.
But the owners have a choice, right? The owners had a choice to buy that property. They have a choice in what kind of vehicle they own. And there's garages there, so I'm
It's a one-car
really
garage.
struggling to see, the approval of this. I'm just having a hard time. I understand where you're coming from, but we have a plan as a city and we have ordinances for a long-term plan. There's no guarantee that those property owners are going to be there in 20, 30 years. So, that's my position.
Counsel?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with everything the council's been saying here, especially Council Greenwell's like, it shouldn't have wound up in our laps, but it has. Obviously, this is far from a perfect design, but I'm certainly not in favor of ripping up sidewalks. It seems like the biggest dilemma we're gonna have is gonna be snow removal, and Public Works is gonna have to figure it out. You know, I do sympathize, I think Mr. Pappas has a legitimate complaint, but once again, I think this should have been resolved way before, you know, even the sidewalks were laid. I mean, somebody had to have seen this plan, and including the developer, everybody had to have seen it. I mean, measurements are measurements. Yeah, it's not a perfect situation. I don't like that it's fallen into our lap at this point, but I'm certainly not in favor of ripping up the sidewalks. And once again, if snow removal is the biggest issue, then Public Works and the landowner is gonna have to figure it out. But I'm certainly not in favor of ripping up sidewalks.
Yes, city manager.
I just want to add that in many of our residential neighborhoods, we have people who are doing this exact same thing, and when snow comes, they move their cars. They cannot leave it on the sidewalk because we cannot plow around it.
Okay, but
Yeah, I was just gonna add, these
Hand
are
behind you.
single-family homes. I was just gonna add, these are single-family homes, they're not apartments.
Got it.
You know, you have three-bedroom homes, and you're giving them one parking space in a residential neighborhood. This is not an apartment house. It's not downtown Keene. It's on the fringe of the border of downtown, you know, of Keene itself. And again, the next street up, it's been that way since day one. This is not like we're asking for something that's not done. I guess I'm at a loss.
I got
when
it.
When you can't park more than one car in your
there's a
driveway.
question behind you.
Yep,
If you come forward, sir.
there you go. Yep.
I'm Dave Raby. Is this on?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. I'm Dave Raby. I live at 7 Magnolia Way. Better? Better. I also own a Toyota pickup. It's a small Toyota pickup, but I'm fortunate enough not to have the sidewalk in my driveway. I own 3 cars. I don't have a choice of putting one anywhere else other than in the driveway and 2 in the garage. It's very tight. I wish that the planning would have been done ahead of time, but that's not the situation now. The 2 new houses that are currently being built that are closest to Route 10 or Winchester Street, those driveways are very short. I don't know if anybody has gone out and measured, but I doubt that you could fit a regular car between the garage door and the sidewalk. I know that those 2 houses are an even tighter situation than some of the other houses up the street. So I understand the rules. I understand that planning is supposed to work ahead of time. Having worked in the construction business, I know things don't always work out the way you hope. So I agree with Mike. I lived there. I understand where you're coming from. I just wanted to add that one little bit.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. The other issue that is weighing on me is the precedent and the procedure that perhaps we need to look into our requirements for sidewalks. I don't know, but, you know, when we start changing the rules, that creates issues. I definitely do agree that sidewalk is, I'll just use the word, pretty goofy. It's very large for the use, but if that's the code, it's gotta be 5 feet. What it is what it is, or it shouldn't be there. So, I don't know, I'm still weighing it. You stated a really good case, Mike. Yeah. Or,
I think one more thing that I'm thinking about is our land development code. I mean, we have flexibility. If we allow flexibility for developers to choose how they want to develop. So, well, I guess it is a choice to use the maximum buildable space. And when you build on space, you are choosing to not make that part of the driveway, not make it a yard. It's a choice, and that flexibility is allowed because different people
Yes.
have different needs. But it is also a choice, so.
final,
Since you've been out there, the other side of the development has 3 times as much room as the side that the sidewalk was allowed or approved to be on. I mean, it's approved on the shortest side of the street, if you will. I mean, numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, and even 10, a sidewalk would be feasible. It's now on like I said, the northern side of the street, and it absolutely just doesn't fit. I mean, it's, and again, one street up, it was never put in. I understand, we're always trying to do better, the next street and this and that. I just think on this street, I think it was not just overlooked, but it was, we were allowed to put these houses in and maximize the space. And the existing sidewalk from 18, 19 years ago, and that's how long it's been there. It wasn't like we put this in 2 years ago. That sidewalk's been there, almost 20 years. And then we put these houses in, and it just, again, something you don't see up front. You have the chance to make the change. It just doesn't fit. And I think it's gonna cause big problems. Yeah.
well,
but
something that you haven't said, maybe supportive of your issue, that was a development that was proposed long ago that languished, and your group or whoever is behind it all was brave enough to come forward to build. The road was there, the sidewalk was there, and you had to put the houses there. You had to deal with what you walked into, and ultimately it will look good regardless of how this vote goes, I'm sure. They're nice-looking houses, a nice development, creating housing, which is our big drumbeat around here. So I think we've probably heard all the issues, and now this is what's tough about this committee. The Finance Committee, do you want to spend the money or not? Planning Committee, it's laws. Here, we have to deal with the reality of situations that are not as we plan, and here it is. So
like I said, it would have been nice on the other side of the street.
it would have been great if the street and the sidewalk and the houses were all planned at the same time. But you dealt with what we have, and now we have to deal with your situation. And okay, guys, anything further from the public? Your Honor.
I hesitated in that, but I will. I'm going to jump in and say, maybe it's time to make a deal.
What would that be?
If it's on the wrong side of the street and the property owner is prepared to both handle the removal and the replacement of the requirement, then I don't think you have that before you, but I'd hate to see the full council consider this without having considered that other option. Appreciate it.
Is the request before us include the removal?
No, it does not.
So who would be doing the removal?
I'd have to go back to the drawing board, but I mean, at least that's an option. It's an option B rather than nothing, getting shot down.
Well, I'd hate to see the city have to take up the sidewalk, but
Well, no, we would take the sidewalk up, but then reconstruction of the sidewalk would be on us as well. That's his argument, making a deal possibly, to remove it from one side to better those homes and put it on the other side of the street, which would narrowly impact those other houses.
You throw out a new idea
New curveball, yep.
to,
Thoughts?
I hate to negotiate like this, but I also want
I
to make a
appreciate it.
decision tonight so we can put this to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be concerned, are there easements that are required on the other side?
Could we table something and come back to the drawing board?
I hate that, but yes. City Attorney?
Just to point out, the request that's in front of you is a waiver of the requirement. So if we're talking about still requiring sidewalks, just moving it, you're not granting the waiver. You're still requiring the sidewalks regardless of where they end up.
I see some shaking of heads here, which, yeah, Public Works.
So procedurally, the final step in all of this, once the development is completed and all of the public infrastructure is accepted, I'm required to certify to the city council that all of the construction's been completed in accordance with Article 23. The article doesn't say that the sidewalk has to be on the north side. If they wanted to build it on the south side, I could still certify that it was built according to the requirements of Article 23. The only caution I would have, and, you know, obviously Mike would have to really look into this, but that there's drainage infrastructure on the south side that's, you know, like low-impact design type stuff, that would probably complicate construction of sidewalks within the public right-of-way as it was laid out by the city council, so.
So is this leading towards more time or informational, or?
If the direction from the committee is that we're gonna want a sidewalk, just, you can put it on either side, that wouldn't require more time. That would require the developer coming up with a plan through my office to install it on the south side.
Informational, then.
Handle administratively.
That's right.
Deny it and then let them
I hate to go negative. Just have to huddle for a moment. Yes?
Nothing, I was just going to reiterate, it's a request before you. I would recommend that you do either grant or denial, given that the LDC puts it with you to make that decision.
Okay. Informational means like it just goes on pause until something happens.
Just,
Go ahead.
once
Make
again,
a-
we're
make a
just,
motion,
you know,
whatever.
well, I'm not gonna make a motion yet. Obviously, informational just kind of, it can mean anything. It usually just means black hole. But why couldn't we just have this handled administratively? Why wouldn't that just cover everything? Just handle administratively and report back to council.
So I appreciate the questions. Again, the question that's in front of you is pretty narrow. There's a requirement in the Land Development Code. For a waiver of that legal requirement, it has to go to city council. If you are looking to waive that requirement for the petitioner, then you need to grant the waiver. If you're not going to waive the requirement for sidewalks, you need to deny the waiver. But that's not something we can do administratively, and it's not something that can just be disposed of informationally. There needs to be either a grant or denial. And again, it's just the sidewalks requirement in the LDC that is at stake here.
Well, we're not changing the sidewalk requirement. We're possibly just saying it could go on the other side of the road. So we're not saying we're changing or waiving anything. We're just saying handle administratively and see if the sidewalk can go on the other side. We're not asking for any waiver of any codes. It's just possibly administratively, they can just move the sidewalk. So we're not asking for anything to be discontinued, just moved.
She is saying we have to deal with the petition. Right. So,
Okay, can we accept the petition as informational and have the request be handled administratively? I mean, we're just fighting over words right now.
So again, there's nothing to be handled administratively. Don, as he explained, will work with him as far as completing the layout and how that's accomplished. But the specific request in front of you is, do we want to require sidewalks here or not? That's something that city staff cannot regulate or grant or deny or anything. It's up for you. And again, if we're looking for a solution where the sidewalks still exist, just their location changes, that's totally fine. You can do that. That would equate to you not granting this waiver. It
Let me
means
follow
that
up.
the sidewalks requirement is still in place.
To follow up on that, but it's not saying denied, it's just saying denied on the northerly side of Magnolia Way. It's not, I'm just reading, the requested, you know, the potential motion could be discontinuous removal of sidewalk on northerly side of Magnolia Way. That's the way it's worded in front of us.
Yeah, just
Can I speak?
all in favor? No, and then they do what they want. Yeah, go.
Is it possible that the petitioner can just withdraw the request right now? And we can bring it back once they have a new plan?
I'm
Why
in
not?
favor. I think procedurally that's permitted. People who submit something to city council should have the right to withdraw something without an action taken on it. Now, what that motion would be for you would be to allow the withdrawal, and the city council would have to vote to carry out that recommendation.
Fine.
And then come back?
Good point.
Be patient.
I'm
No,
I'm very
no,
patient,
it's-
and I understand. If I'm allowed to withdraw it, that'd be fine, and then we'd come back.
It's great when everyone's agreeing and it still takes 20 minutes. Okay, so therefore,
Oh,
what?
Elizabeth had a good point.
I just want to clarify, this won't come back to MSFI, so.
Good.
Yeah, I know, that actually might make you very happy. If that is in fact what happens and the sidewalk is just moved, it will be approved through the regular administrative
Super
process.
terrific. Yes?
With that caveat, I would just be really clear that that expense would not be any, and the city would not incur any expense related to
So
that.
the notes will say. And how about a motion so we can get this over with?
She can make the motion.
Why?
It was
You?
her idea.
Uh,
She probably has wording.
I'm like, what am I, well, so you're formally withdrawing to, did
Yes,
we
I'd
get
like
that
to,
on record?
yeah,
Okay.
to withdraw, yeah.
I move to accept the withdrawal from the petitioner.
Second.
Okay, I think we all know what's going on.
Okay.
Anyone in the public that isn't confused? Good. All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Now that we turn through that, let's talk about bridges. From city staff relating to the load limit postings on Beaver Street and Spring Street bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We spoke about this project and the findings of the structural study in the September MSFI meeting. There was still some work to be done to see if the restrictions had to be applied to emergency vehicles, school buses, city vehicles. The city's consultant engineer, Hoyle Tanner, performed that assessment of city-owned and maintained vehicles, and basically we get no relief. Essentially, the ambulance can pass the bridge, but what's being recommended is a 10-ton load limit on these two bridges, Beaver Street over Beaver Brook and Spring Street over Beaver Brook. In light of that, effective December 1st, Public Works is implementing a posting weight limit on the two bridges for a 10-ton maximum weight limit, including vehicle and load weights. And the weight limit restrictions are based on the New Hampshire DOT bridge inspection results and an independent structural evaluation completed by our consultant engineer. This is really happening because these two bridges are over 100 years old. They're required for replacement and are beyond their serviceable life. They'll be built into the CIP. What we're looking to do and already coordinating with DOT is potentially swapping with the Maple Ave Bridge and putting the Beaver Street Bridge in place of it in that scheduled slot for that DOT red listed bridge funding. Essentially means that obviously no vehicles over 10 tons in weight can travel over the bridge. Signs will be installed at each bridge approach in either direction. Larger commercial vehicles, logging trucks, city emergency vehicles, heavy equipment, buses, oil and propane delivery, we'll need to seek an alternative route. We've already coordinated with emergency response, and they're rerouting based on these recommendations. Most passenger vehicles will remain unaffected, cars, trucks, everything like that. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have related to this.
So, just to be clear, you're saying
Sure.
that oil trucks, trash collection trucks would be over the limit,
Correct,
and they have been informed?
correct.
Okay. Yep.
Just, the only concern I'd have, and obviously, you know, you can only do what you can do with weight, would be fire response, but looking at it from a bird's eye view, so basically, any fire or incident or medical call on the east side of the bridge, fire department response would be to go to Roxbury Street and then cut across.
Yeah.
Has that been discussed with the fire department?
Yes, we've had a couple of meetings, and even there are some adjustments that will need to be made as part of the downtown construction project to make sure that they still have the quickest means of access once we start construction downtown. So we've had the initial conversation, dispatch is aware of that load rating, and we will coordinate continuously as we go on with the downtown project.
Okay. Good. Anything more? No? Anyone from the public, thoughts or comments? And I have no doubt that if a house is on fire, the fire truck's going over the bridge. But I'm just cynic. Okay, motion,
Just move to accept this informational?
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we now? Construction season update.
Sure. So my intent was to be brief, but go over the major construction projects. I know we've had a lot of questions about Island Street, what's going on there and where we're at. So I figured I'd give a quick summary. I'm not going to necessarily read all the projects that are listed in your agenda, but give some updates on the projects that have been completed so far this year. Island Street, the contractor demobilized this past week. They've completed all of the scope of work except for the sidewalks and the final paving, which will be done next construction year. The sidewalks, to make it through the winter and be safe for the winter for plowing and pedestrians, are currently temporarily paved, so that's just a temporary condition to be safe for the winter, and we'll replace with concrete next year. The road doesn't have quite the pitch I was looking for, so what we're going to do is shim to get a really good pitch on the road with how flat it is along the horizontal profile. So that will be done next year, probably May-ish timeframe, and then final loam seed restoration. People's driveways will be finalized that for Island Street. I am happy to say that the Marlborough Street project has been awarded. We received additional money from DOT. There was a plan to do some trail work this year, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. We're late in the season. We're going to hit the ground running April 1st of next year, so very excited about that. Projects we have coming up next year or have recently been bid. The Transportation Heritage Trail Phase 1 has been, we've received authorization from DOT to award the project. That project will actually start this winter, so that's pretty exciting. Similarly, the George Street Bridge Replacement Project was just bid. We're, I think, weeks away from receiving DOT approval, and we likely will start that project, if not the spring, maybe even the winter as well. Downtown project is out to bid as well, with a bid opening in December 18th. The director will provide an update on that project as well. We had the pre-bid meeting and had a very good turnout for that, so we're very optimistic of receiving good and competitive bids for that project. The Key Road drainage replacement project, we received competitive bids last week, and we'll be awarding that project for construction this winter as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I didn't want to belabor the point. I'll in next spring, provide a more detailed update of next year's construction projects, but figured I'd throw a few highlights for you in case you had any questions related to construction projects either this year or next year.
The downtown project, tell me
Yes.
about the pre-bid meeting.
The pre-bid meeting. So that was held remotely, so we could get as many potential bidders as possible. I believe we had 12 or 13 people who logged into the call for that. We had Stantec go over the scope of work. We had DES go over the federal funding requirements. It was about an hour-long meeting. We received, to date, I want to say about a half dozen to 8 questions from prospective bidders on the project that really demonstrate they're digging into the weeds of the details of the project. So with that, we're very optimistic we're going to get competitive pricing for the project. Good.
And all the, well, I guess I could save it for the downtown discussion, but all the little miscellaneous filings and permits and hearings and whatnot are all done?
Yes, actually, we received notice today that there are no comments received during the environmental review period, so we were very excited to see that. So we've cleared that hurdle. DES was very gracious in letting us go to bid before having that formal approval. Ultimately, we only ended up losing 2 days. I know everyone made a big deal of it. The plan was to go out to bid that Monday. We went out the same week on a Thursday morning. So we really didn't lose that many days. And truthfully, we're having an extended, longer bid period anyway. So it was built into the bid schedule from the start.
That's worth saying
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
You know, we, as well as city manager and staff, took some heat on that.
A little bit.
Yeah, okay, good. Anything, yes?
A question on a different project.
Sure.
Not that our constituents ever complain about construction projects, but
Yep.
Island Street, you know, you had more than one call on that about, they think it's too narrow. But basically, am I correct, that probably standard 11-foot lanes? Is that what I'm seeing on Island Street?
Correct. It's a narrower construction for traffic calming, slower speeds on that area, yes, for sure.
I figured it was by design. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I told them.
Yeah.
And Island Street, in essence, is, I think, a preview of the rebuilding of Main Street, because that was all new underground.
I like to call it mini downtown to some of the
Well,
engineering division, yeah.
Downtown's two sides, this
Yeah.
is only
Right.
one
Yep.
side.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute, no, Laura.
Thank you. Can you remind me, you may have said this already,
Sure.
but the Beaver and Spring Street reconstruction, when will those actually be replaced? Do you know?
So they're getting put into the CIP. We don't have the definitive years scheduled yet. The idea is the Beaver Street being the more critical, we would swap that out in the federally funded project for Maple Ave and then put Maple Ave back into our programming, basically. So I think currently that's scheduled with DOT for fiscal year 29, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Back to Island Street.
Sure.
Is there any plan to put any striping and painting markers on the roadway soon? Because I've noticed
Yes.
cars are driving kind of in the middle. They're really afraid of those really big granite curbs, and especially as you get up to the intersection at West Street, people seem to be forgetting that there's 3 lanes there, not 2.
Yeah, definitely. In the interest of public safety, that's the one thing that we're going to have the contractor do before he's totally demobilized for the winter, make sure we get some line striping and crosswalk striping in West Street. I know we lost a lot of that, so we want to make sure we get that back before they're done. That's a great question. Thank you.
And for the minute taker, Council Favelis has joined us this evening. Thank you. Anything further, questions about the construction work? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Brandy Wells, Roof Legally. I own a business in downtown Keene, and calling Island Street a mini downtown is very concerning because it was just one bridge. And I'm not sure how long that project took, but my husband works for Corning, and it has been a nightmare just to get in and out of his workplace. I also want to understand what contracts have already gone out with the project if it hasn't been bid on. Meaning, what is the association with GPI to this project, if you know that?
Yes.
With your permission, Chair,
Yes.
I'd be happy to answer that. So there were definitely traffic issues with Island Street, which I think by the end of the project, we worked them out and coordinated daily with Corning, which I think is above and beyond for both the contractor and project manager who was involved on the project. But I will agree, and we do owe them an apology, that there were inconveniences at time, for sure. No contracts have been awarded to date for downtown other than the design. We, in accordance with federal funding requirements, we put out a request for qualifications and received 3 for engineering services during construction. From that process, GPI was selected. We are holding off to award that contract until we are sure that we have bids that we can award the construction phase of the project, and so that we don't have someone under contract for a project that potentially is not going forward. That's obviously a worst case and what we don't want, but it's very typical of what we do for all major projects.
I have to agree with what Ms. Wells said. I tried to get into my dentist in the same building, and that will not happen on Main Street.
Agreed.
It was unacceptable how you could not get into that parking lot.
Yes,
So,
agreed,
but we'll take that up with that contractor.
for sure.
Yes, did you want to come forward again?
And my other 2 questions are, how are you supporting downtown businesses through this? And how realistic is it to put a bid out for December but plan on breaking ground in 2026?
With
Yes,
your permission?
please.
I forgot the first question, I apologize.
How is the city going to support
I
the
was supporting
downtown
downtown.
merchants?
I don't want to steal the downtown,
Or
the
Public
downtown
Works.
agenda item thunder. We do have a project ombudsman. The director can speak to that, certainly. GPI, as part of their inspections, is not only inspecting the technical aspects of the work, but make sure they're coordinating between the contractor, project ombudsman, and local businesses to make sure we're not missing anything. We made it very clear in the pre-bid meeting, during this project, we need to coordinate as a group, make sure we're looking out for all things. If a business is closed on a certain day, that's the day we want to connect their water service so they don't lose water unnecessarily on a day that they are open and have business. Those are things that we're looking to stay on top of and already have summarized in support of the project, but those are things we need everyone on board paying attention to make sure that we support the local businesses downtown. What was the other question? I'm so sorry. December. Great question. So historically, I don't really like bidding in December and November. I feel like a lot of contractors are either doing one or 2 things. They're either scrambling to finish their work in the current construction season, or they're shutting down and going on a vacation, usually somewhere warm. In this instance, with this size project, we have to. It has to be done that way. We have to bid this far in advance, and we will need the 4-month between the bid opening and the start of construction operations in the field to be able to work through all the scheduling, all the submittals, all the things involved with the project to make sure the contractor is incorporating what the city wants as part of this project.
Okay. Mr. Lucier?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would just add to what Brian's saying that one of the questions that we actually got from a contractor already was, will we pay for materials that are delivered to the project but not yet installed? So that's a provision it's not uncommon in contracts, where we can allow them to purchase materials earlier in the project Once they're in a way that the city has control over the materials, we'll pay for a portion of that material or a portion of the cost of that material. So, for example, the contractor is going to be able to buy all of the pipe required, all of the concrete structures in advance. By doing that early and bidding this project earlier than usual, allowing them to purchase those materials, paying for those materials in advance of them being installed, it mitigates the contractor's inflation risk. So he's not trying to worry about, well, you know, is our price is going to go up next year? Am I going to be buying this pipe at an inflated price? I can buy it all now, deliver it, have it secure at a city location, and I know that that risk of having to purchase materials at a higher cost is mitigated. So that's the advantage of the earlier bidding.
Okay. Anything else, committee, public? And we're going to talk more about downtown in a moment anyway. So, motion,
Move to recommend that the committee accept the 2025-2026 construction preview and summary as informational.
Second.
motion's made and seconded. Anything from the committee, public, all in favor? That would be unanimous.
Thank you.
And, turning the page. Okay, but it is Public Works night.
It surely is, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. I'm here to report back on something we talked about. It was a while ago. It was cold when we were talking about this last, but it is something that's been on my agenda to get done. So I'm here to try to close the loop on it. That is the proposal for what I'm calling a protection of streets ordinance. This is an idea that we've been talking about for a while at Public Works. A number of communities in the state have already implemented the similar ordinances, and it's definitely true that municipalities we copy each other's best ideas. So if you look at the ordinances that have been enacted by Concord, Manchester, Dover, Portsmouth, you will find that the language in those ordinances is remarkably similar. Verbatim is another way of putting it. They all used kind of the same structure, and I think that structure has been legally vetted and proven out. The intention here is to protect the city's investments in its pavement and roadway infrastructure. So, and I'm sure that you've all seen it where we no sooner finish cutting pavement, but we're back and somebody is digging a trench across it to put in a new sewer line or fix a gas pipe or something. The intention of this is to try to eliminate or reduce those incidents. So, there was a question from a committee member about, well, would this allow, a property owner who unexpectedly had their sewer main fail, would they still be allowed to fix the sewer main? And the very short answer is yes, absolutely. We're not going to tell somebody that they can't fix their sewer line or their water line. We're not going to tell a vacant property owner that they can't build a new home because we just paved the street, obviously. We're not going to tell Liberty Utilities that they can't replace a leaking gas main. But what it says is if you have one of those emergency situations and an unavoidable excavation in the street, we're going to charge you the normal fees associated with the excavation, but we're also going to charge you an additional pavement life reduction fee. And depending on how soon after that work has been completed, it could be 3 times or 2 times the amount of the normal fee for the permit. And that money, our intention would be, it goes into the city's coffers. The following year, we would include in our operating budget a request for a supplemental that would approximately equal to whatever we collected the previous year, and it would allow us to go back and do additional maintenance on those patches, either crack sealing around the edges of the patch, or milling and overlaying the patch so it rides better, that sort of thing. Basically, just trying to keep the road in good condition despite that damage. Lost my train of thought. So how much does this cost? In the packet, there's a table where I've compared the fees as they exist in the city of Keene. So today, we charge a flat $75 permit fee for excavation permits. That fee was last adjusted in 2017. And it was structured to pay for basically 2 hours of the engineering tech's time. That includes his time to receive, process, and approve the application, and then go out and do the inspections that are associated with it. Both when they're doing the work, he's got to go out and inspect to make sure that the water line is connected or the sewer pipe is connected properly. He also goes out a year later and inspects the patch to make sure that it's held up and it hasn't failed. So that covers his time. We don't charge any additional fees beyond that. So the $500 security deposit is just a refundable security deposit. Assuming that the contractor's patch holds up, or if it doesn't hold up and he fixes it, the contractor gets that money back. I have had lingering questions in my mind over the years as to whether or not the average homeowner who has to hire a contractor to fix their sewer line or their water line actually knows that refundable deposit gets refunded, and whether they get that refunded back to them. But that's a question between the contractor and the homeowner. If you look at the same patch, the same operation in Concord or Dover or Manchester, you'll see those communities are charging quite significantly more than we are. Their initial application fees range between $200 and $255. They also charge a street damage fee that varies between $7 and $5 for those three communities. So that's, everybody pays that, whether or not it's a newly paved street or not. For those newly paved streets, they're also charging that multiplier, that additional fee to compensate the city for the fact that new pavement has been deteriorated and it's not going to last as long as it would have otherwise. And that, as I mentioned, is between 3 and 2 times depending on how long that pavement has been paved. So when you add all of that up, the same work that costs you $75 in the city, in Concord is going to cost you $1,500. In Dover, it's going to cost you nearly $2,000. So what we're proposing is to bring our charges more in line with our peers. I'm looking to raise the permit fee to $100. That, again, just reflects the incremental increases in our labor costs. For 2 hours of time for the engineering technician comes to about $100. We would also add the street damage fee of $5 for any pavement disturbed. So length of the trench times width of the trench across the pavement or the sidewalk times $5 would be added to the cost of the permit. And then for those permits that are issued on newly paved streets, within 2 years of paving, we would charge 3 times the damage fee as an added cost. For streets between 2 and 5 years, we would charge twice the damage cost, the damage fee, as an additional cost. So, the example there, potential cost we're showing, assumes a trench 12-foot wide, 5 feet wide, 12 feet long, across that street, and work within 2 years of paving, and that would, with our structure, would come to $1,425. So still a little bit below our peers, but more in line. That money would then become available to, like I said, do additional maintenance work in the subsequent years. This is presented to you tonight as, the other things that I've written into the draft ordinance that you asked for. I'm proposing a 2-year waiver. So roads that are shown in our capital improvement plan to be paved within the next 2 years would be exempt from paying both the additional fees, of course, but the street damage fee. So it gives a modest incentive for the homeowner to do, if they know that their water line has been leaking, or if they know that their water pressure isn't very good and their pipe is probably tuberculated, if they have to have their sewer line cleaned every 6 months because it keeps getting clogged, they'll have some small incentive to do it in advance of the paving work happening. On the flip side of that, if they chose not to do the work in advance, they would pay a premium if they had to do it. And with that, I'd love to take your questions. As I mentioned, this is presented as a draft. It hasn't been introduced for first reading. So the recommendation is either to direct staff to present the ordinance to the city council, or to tell the public works director to pound salt, and we'll never speak of it again.
Pound salt, yeah, that's cool. Okay, thank you. I'll get you in a half a second. I have a communication, which I don't know if you all received, from one of our residents, Richard Watkins. He's not very pleased with the concept, and he's got some questions. Did you get this?
I did not.
Okay, well, I'll give it to you.
Great.
I won't read the whole thing. I use the term penalize because it's our understanding via our contractor that the contractor does the digging and repairs, and the costs are passed on to the homeowner. And he's on Park Avenue, and I'm sure that he would like the idea that this be read and considered. I'm struggling with this. I get it, you want to recover costs, but when the poor homeowner is dealing with a major expense such as a new water, sewer, or what have you dig, and now we got to poke him a little further because breaking the road. Just not too, I get it, but I still have some more concerns. So I'll pass this over to the city manager to respond. As I assured Mr. Watkins, one of you would. Yes.
Absolutely.
Counselor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. When this first came up, I was fine to move this forward and look at a draft ordinance. I didn't like it then, but wanted to move the process forward, and now, almost a year later, I have the minutes up, I think this was February. I still don't like it for much the same reason that Chair Greenwald said and that I've said in the past. I understand, other cities are doing this. I don't think that means we have to do it. I don't think it means we have to, use that as a model. And I have the same concern. It's not the carrot part of this that is concerning to me, which is, okay, if you know that you need to do some planned work or some, routine maintenance, or a utility company needs to do this or that, you will waive this fee or that fee if you do it within the 2 years. For me, it's when you have a homeowner, you have a tenant who then has the cost passed on to them, that is faced with an emergency plumbing situation, an emergency sewer situation. And I think I said this close to verbatim last time. I don't like this idea that here's this really expensive project you have to do, and the city's coming to collect as well. And so I think I understand in a vacuum and from the city side of the equation why this makes sense. We pave the roads, we want the roads to remain paved, we want to get a good ROI. On the other side of that equation is the homeowner or the tenant or whomever that's going to be faced with the cost of this. So I think that this ordinance has moved forward through the process enough for me, and I'll be voting against moving forward with it tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
I totally understand your concerns. I absolutely do, and I am not surprised to hear anything that you said. My counter argument to that would be, very rarely are these sorts of things completely unexpected. Typically when we see sewer lines getting replaced or water lines getting replaced, that service has been, in the ground since the 1950s, 1960s. They've had a history of having to get repeated cleanings or roots cut out of that. Like, there are a lot of indications that that service line is failing before it completely gives up the ghost. So the hope with it is that those property owners that know that they've got these problems brewing will be a little more proactive in dealing with that before it becomes an emergency.
Council Filio.
You make a good point. You make a good point. Too many good points. Would there be a way, and I know there's a lot of gray area there, that if it was determined the homeowner comes to you and says, we didn't see it coming, we have an emergency, we've got backfill, into the house because the sewer line collapsed, we have an emergency we didn't see coming. Could there be any way that these fees could be waived because they didn't see it coming? I understand it could be a little bit of a gray area, but would there be any mechanism where the homeowner could come to Public Works and just say, hey, look, we did not see this coming. We're going to get dumped with $10,000, $15,000, whatever the repair cost is, and now we have to add the cost onto the city on top of this. Would there be any way of having a mechanism where they could come to you and ask for a waiver?
Respectfully, sir, I would say no. And the reason is we don't have any record of routine maintenance on these pipes. So, they're not obligated to come to get a permit if they have Roto-Rooter out to cut roots or to clean their blocked up sewer pipe. So it would really be just, the honest homeowners would pay the fee, and other homeowners would realize that if they said that they had no way of knowing, they wouldn't pay the fee. So I don't think that would be a workable approach.
Counselor.
Thank you. How big of a problem is this? Like, in 2024, how many of these
Excavations.
excavations, yes, thank you.
It's honestly,
talk
and I
today.
think I mentioned this last time I was here, it's not as big of a problem as I initially thought when we first started looking at it. I guess, the perception is like every time we pave a road, we turn around and somebody's cutting on it. In actuality, we looked at it, and it was a little over an average of one per year that happens like this.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Well, I guess now you have me leaning the other way because it sounds like we're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. And I understand where you're coming from. The perception might have been, we have a problem. I mean, I could look at this and say maybe we increase the permit fee a little bit to help cover the cost. But whereas we don't really seem to have a problem, maybe we just need to increase the permit fee a little bit without really penalizing, a homeowner that's had a sewer system that fails. I'm trying to meet somewhere in the middle because I know, especially in today's day and age, with everything and the cost of everything, the last thing a homeowner needs is just in most of these, I really trust the homeowner. And in a lot of cases, maybe they did potentially see it coming a little bit, but everybody's running tight right now. It's not like somebody wants to go out and dump 15 grand and, replacing their sewer line. So I'd like to give the homeowner a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt. Maybe increase the permit fee a little bit, but I think at this point, I wouldn't be in favor of the ordinance as written.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
So the reason, like I said, I was surprised when I saw that it was not very many of these incidents that occurred. The reason I thought it was still worthwhile bringing the ordinance forward is not so much the pavement life reduction fee, it's the street damage fee. So right now, we charge the contractor a refundable deposit, refundable security on the patch, $500. I have long suspected that the homeowner never sees that $500 back. That check goes back to the contractor, and it's really, up to the individual contractor whether that gets refunded to the property owner. I suspect that a lot of contractors are charging it on the front end to the property owner, and then keeping it at the back end. So the pavement, or excuse me, I've got my own terminology now. What do we call it? Pavement damage fee, excuse me, would be basically a new revenue source that would allow us to do more maintenance work on these patches over time. So that would be applicable to every permit, not just the one or two a year that are cutting newly paved permit, but every permit that we issue. And we issue probably on the order of about 50 a year.
So for a sewer or sprinkler line replacement, pavement gets cut, hole is dug, pipe is replaced. The property owner pays for the repaving.
Correct.
Okay, so this is like if it fails or
Yeah,
settles
that
or-
damage fee would be, typical patch is about 12 feet long, 5 feet wide. So about $300, based on what I wrote here into the ordinance.
Okay.
That $300 would then be available to do things like sealing the edges of the patch a couple of years later to make sure that water isn't infiltrating and damaging the roadway. If that patch does settle over time, it would allow us to mill it and overlay it so it rides properly in the future.
Okay. I have to make a phone call tomorrow about that $500, but anyway, that's irrelevant. Yeah.
So why is it sounds like the issue for you is that you think the security deposit may not be making it back to the homeowner. Why is that why is it a deposit and not a fee?
That's just the way it's currently structured in our system.
So I guess if the homeowner is never getting it back anyway,
Yeah.
But they
is
should
it-
be.
They should be.
So
But-
the excavation permit is issued to the contractor that's actually doing the work, not to the
Right.
homeowner. We charge the security, and that's what we're allowed to do, basically to make sure that the patch is paved properly and it holds up. A year after the patch is completed, the inspector goes out, checks, and if it's within tolerance, within 3/8 inch of flush with the adjacent surface, we issue a check to the contractor that took out that permit and return the money. If it's not, we either call him up and make him fix it, or he forfeits that security and we'll do it ourselves. But generally, they all go fix it.
I think that in general, this feels like it's going to be difficult to explain to people. I think people are going to feel like they're being charged just extra. I think a lot of people have said that, and I understand. But I'm also wondering if there's a way to incentivize, if it's only a few, then is there a way to incentivize doing work early without like a punishment? So
Yeah,
maybe
the only incentive we could offer right now would be a free excavation permit, which is $75.
And also you avoid the penalty.
Well, there's no penalty today.
Right. Oh, no, okay. Yeah, Jacob.
Thank you. Just real quick, I don't, for me, the whole question about the contractor and where the deposit's going, I mean, I don't know that we should be considering this ordinance on the basis of whether or not a hypothetical contractor is or isn't giving back the security deposit. I don't see that happening as a reason to say, and we're going to charge you even more now, more money that you're not going to get back. I think that Councilor Filio offered a potential solution here, and I'd like to get the Public Works Director's input on it. Mr. Chair, would you consider it a small victory if the permit fee went from 75 to 100 in line with the current cost of labor?
Yeah, I think that would be wise and in keeping with the city council's policy. Our fee structures are supposed to account for the cost of providing the service, which, with it not having been adjusted for 7 years now, it's definitely time to do.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need a motion on that, or can you just handle it?
Yeah,
Boy, that sounds like there's a second compromise this evening.
yes.
Wow. Anything further? A motion? Who?
Informational.
No? You want it informational, or Yeah, it could be informational, that'll throw it down the hole for a while. Yeah, do it.
Move to accept the draft protection of the streets ordinance as information.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Anything further, committee, public, all in favor? Done. Thank you. Another great compromise.
Resounding defeat. Excellent. Thank you. The next item is the downtown infrastructure project update. Brian successfully stole most of my thunder. But as he mentioned, we have advertised. The project bid went out to bid on November 6th. Bids are due on December 18th, which I mentioned to Elizabeth happens to be a city council night. So my hope is that the manager's comments that evening will feature some excellent news. So here's hoping. Brian mentioned that we did, excuse me, we had the pre-bid meeting, and that was well attended. We've reached out directly to a number of firms that we know in the area that do that sort of work and would be qualified to do the project. The engineering division reached out to folks that we've worked with in the past. We also reached out to 3 firms in Massachusetts that a city resident who works for an engineering firm contacted us and said, hey, here's 3 firms in Massachusetts that would be interested. So we've reached out to those as well. So altogether, we've contacted 15 construction firms directly to let them know that this project is out there and that they should take a look. And I haven't looked recently we actually get a report from our electronic bidding website, the service that does that for us, about who has accessed and downloaded the plans. And I haven't looked recently to see how many firms have actually downloaded the plans, but as of the date of the pre-bid, there was quite a few that had already looked at it. So we know the word's getting out there, including the different specialty subcontractors, electricians, arborists, that sort of thing have looked at it. So I think the word's getting out there, and that's a good thing. The last week or so, we've spent a lot of time thinking and talking about how we're going to accommodate events in the downtown during construction. So this time of year, the city clerk sends out notices to all of the event coordinators that get licenses from the city each year to hold things like Pumpkin Fest and the Music Fest and the Food Festival. All of those things get correspondence from the clerk's office to let them know, it's time to renew your application for the coming year, and here's what you need to know. This year, that letter is going to include 3 example event footprints that they can use as sort of a starting point for their planning purposes without Central Square and the active construction area. So there's a large event footprint that they can take as a starting point, which would include the Commercial Street parking lot, Main Street from Railroad down to Emerald. There's a medium-sized, which would eliminate the Commercial Street parking lot, but they would still block off Main Street, that southern end of Main Street, include Railroad Square. Or there's the small event, which would not include any road closures. It would leave Main Street open, but it would have their event on the sidewalks on both sides of Main Street along with Railroad Square. So those are really intended to be starting points. Every event is going to be unique. It's going to have to go through the normal, what we call the protocol process, where the event sponsor comes in and they talk through all of these different issues, event security and path rooms, and are we going to have tents set up? Are there going to be cooking? And all of the different departments are there at those meetings, and we coordinate them. All of those events will have to go through that process, and it'll be tailored for each event's needs. But we offered those as kind of starting points for their planning purposes. The one thing that we've talked about internally as staff, and I honestly don't know what the mechanism is for how this will be sort of administered with the council, but my personal recommendation is that if there are additional costs to secure these events, for example, an event may require more time for Public Works to lay out protective barricades around the commercial street parking lot, that sort of thing. If there's costs for city staff or city work that's over and above what it would have normally cost them to run that event in years prior, I really feel like the city should absorb that cost. How that gets administered with the city, I think we need to figure out. But I think it would be fair to the event owners or the event sponsors that the project shouldn't cause their costs to go up. So I'd like to find a way to make that work. And we'll be talking more about that, I'm sure. The other thing on events, Hannah Grimes holds a event coordinators meeting every year about this time. It's been scheduled for December 12th. So George and I are planning to attend that. I attended last year. Of course, George wasn't hired last year, but I attended last year and spoke to the event coordinators at that meeting. At that time, we were still planning construction for 2025. Obviously that changed, but I will be going to answer any questions that they have about how the downtown project will affect their events in the coming season. That's it for events. With us tonight, Dave McNamara, our project manager from Stantec, is here. And I believe that he would like the opportunity to address the committee on some questions that have come up with Stantec's role in the project.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Before he comes up, you're not getting off the hook that easy. Anyway, thank you for attending meeting number 84. Couple of things. One, and this is something we said a year ago, we're hoping interest rates have gone down. It looks like they're going to be down a full %. So remind the contractors that, please.
I will certainly do so.
Yeah, people told me a year ago it never happened. Looks like we're going to be down a full %. So you mentioned the outside events will have to go through the normal protocol. I'd like to take a look at that because I don't think normal protocol, I think we should work on that a little bit. Normal protocol, as we know, can take a while. That's just how government works.
Right.
I would like to streamline my normal protocol during the downtown construction project. I'm not saying just waive everything and say just go for it, but I'd like to find a way through city staff to expedite whatever normal protocol is. And I don't have the exact answer for it, but whatever we can do to streamline it, because downtown obviously, and things are going to happen, and somebody might come up at the last second because of what's happening right here that we'd have to give a small event. I don't want to have to keep them on the hook for a long time. So maybe we can have a committee formed for expedited events that don't require, a lot of city, but I don't have the exact answer to that. I'm just throwing this out.
Yeah.
And as far as any exceeded costs we'd absorb, I'd like to take a look at that too and maybe even discount the costs through the downtown project.
Cool.
I want to look at things a little bit more of, instead of just saying, we're going to be a little bit easier going. I'd like to see us be a little bit more extended during the whole project with just being a nice city government, basically. I'd like to see us bend over a little bit more and really help the downtown merchants through these 2 years.
So licensing of those events is really a city clerk function, and I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of like how they do their process. So I don't know if the manager wants to.
Good job tossing that
Yeah,
one.
I can't really speak for the city clerk, but what I can say is the attempt to identify locations for events during each phase of the project is an attempt to make this process easier. So they've gone through quite a bit of initial upfront work to look at what events could go where and how that might be able to be flexible. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. I also agree with the Public Works Director's comment about not holding them harmless. If it cost them X amount of dollars in the past, it should be the same again this year, if that additional cost is because of the downtown project. I think that is fair. In terms of flexibility, I don't know what the right mechanism is, but I would like to find a way to build some additional flexibility into the process in terms of timing. Oftentimes, coming back and forth to city council, is what takes us a while to go through the cycles, to go to the council meeting, to get the approval. During COVID, when we had additional emergency authority, I was able to deal with things very quickly,
Right.
and flex in lots of different ways. And so we need to look at that a little bit more to
Okay.
say, what might you be able to grant to us to be able to handle things a little bit quicker during the process?
Through yourself and the city clerk's office?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. I'd like to look into that. Thank
Well,
you.
I think I could speak for the committee and say that we'll hold special meetings to accommodate decisions. As long as we're into the discussion about events, let's stay on that, and I think Ms. Wells wanted to speak, and then we'll get into the construction conversation.
I submitted an application for an event over 3 months ago and was told that they were not sure if they were going to be hosting events or how they were going to be going about it. And I still haven't heard whether or not I can host this event. And it was supposed to be in June, but it's a major festival in downtown. And I, as a person who has hosted large events in downtown, would certainly work around construction for the safety of the community and don't have an issue doing that. But I would like to know whether or not my event is permitted so that I can proceed in getting sponsorship, support from the community, from the downtown. And it's very concerning that, there's not even a bid, and I'm already being told that they're not even sure if they're going to do events during the time of construction. So, I'm glad we're open for discussion and expediting it, but we're not even in construction, and I am being told that they're not sure. So I'm just being transparent about my process that I've been in for the last several months. So,
I hear you.
Thank you.
And I did carry that message, Brandy, and I don't know if that got mired in the clerk's office, Public Works office, or whose
So-
office.
So, Mr. Chair, I unfortunately, I don't know what event that this was
It's a-
pertaining to.
A Renaissance fair.
There is, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that one myself, so I don't know where it's at. What we've been telling people right along is you will still be able to have events during construction. The location of that event may change from what you've done in previous years, but we've committed, we've been, I've been saying this since last year, we will have events in downtown during the construction. Footprint might be a little different, but we can still accommodate events. And maybe this wasn't communicated well, but what we have been, like I said, we've been working with the clerk's office to develop these sort of different footprints, the example footprints that people can use for planning purposes. So it may have been that the clerk was just saying that we didn't know what the footprints were going to be until we'd worked through that process.
I'm gonna
Those
sus-
letters are supposed to go out in the next couple weeks.
I'm going to suspect that this issue can be resolved, that very likely what happened was some front desk individual was just following what they thought was the right answer, and you have much more information, you have all the information, and the clerk has a lot more. So
Can I
If
just
we can
understand the
reset,
process real quick, though?
Again?
So in the application process, I give the application to the city clerk, but then where does it go after that? It goes to you.
No, she schedules protocol meetings. I actually don't see the applications at all. I'm not
Okay.
part of that process.
I'm just curious because I'm trying to understand why it hasn't been in front of the city council yet if I did the application 3 months ago. So it's more of a curiosity, but it also is very concerning, once again, for me as a business owner to, want to provide something in downtown, and I feel I'm being misinformed, and I don't even know what to say about it. So, yeah.
I get it, and,
Yeah, thank you.
Not happy, but I think, I wouldn't promise an answer tomorrow with Thanksgiving, but I would guess by Monday afternoon, you'll hear something, yep.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I can appreciate all of the challenges. I live downtown, so, and it is tough, and it's not going to be a fun time the whole time. But I have a lot of confidence in our staff, in the team, and the process. A lot of this, it's not so much a matter of, I think no one's trying to withhold anything. It's a lot of figuring things out. And Public Works has been working on these details for a while. So, yeah, hopefully we can work on the communication piece, but we'll get there.
And I think I can assure you, you'll hear. And I apologize. I already apologized to you personally that the ball has been bobbled. But okay, anything else on events? All the mini events will be coming forth as Mark Rebellard and his group comes through, and all this goes. The protocol is it goes to the clerk's office, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so we're clear. Good. Construction.
Yeah, so if it's suitable to the chair, I'd like to invite Dave McNamara from Stantec up to address the committee.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Dave
Hello.
McNamara with Stantec. Yeah, we just wanted to be here. We wanted to address the permitting snafu from about a month or so ago. Talk to that, answer any questions that may be lingering, and kind of reassure you that things are moving forward. And as Dawn and Brian noted earlier tonight, the bid's on track. So we worked through it with DES, but basically at the beginning of the process last spring, we were working with DES. We had submitted a bunch of paperwork in response to a request for information from them. Went back in, saw they had closed the portal it's what we kind of communicate with them on in terms of the permit application process. At the time, I said, okay, it's good. They're doing their final review and everything's moving along. The technical piece is still going, so we're still working with other groups within DES on the technical details. Should have, after a few weeks, a month, I should have figured something was weird. Something was off because we hadn't gotten a final declaration that it was closed out, and so it just lingered. Caught up with it as we got close to the bid, talking to someone else within DES on another piece of the process. Found out that that portal shouldn't have been closed. And I'm not in any way trying to say DES made the mistake. We made the mistake. I should have recognized that at the time. So they opened it back up. They looked in. There were a couple of questions they had. We quickly got that back to them. And then basically that's where we came into that public comment piece that came out of that. So once we had given them everything they needed, again, about a month ago, and that's when it was, well, there's a 30-day public comment period that's needed to close this formally out. So at that point, we worked with the city, with DES, kind of get all the players together, work through it in pretty quick fashion. DES let us go forward with the bid, with the stipulation that we couldn't open bids until the public comment period was closed. Any comments that came in were satisfactorily answered, and kind of move forward with the bid. So we've gotten all of our sign-offs from DES now. The bid opening date is stated December 18th, so ultimately it hasn't impacted that. But, I dropped the ball. It was potentially something that could have cost us more time than it did. I think everybody worked together, when it did come to light, and was able to keep things on track. But just wanted to answer questions and just kind of be here to take any comments or
fall on the sword.
whatever's needed.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, Jake.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your being here and addressing it and being candid about where the ball was dropped. I think that for me, my immediate question, thinking about the reason that we delayed this for a year, or at least the reason I voted to delay this for a year, was very specifically so that everybody involved, the downtown business owners, downtown residents, us on the city side, could make sure we were getting everything lined up, all the ducks in a row, and that we were not going to let things that didn't need to slip through the cracks slip through the cracks. Am I going to wake up a week from now to some news Sentinel article that says there's some other problem, some other T not crossed, I not dotted, or are you confident now that we're in a phase where we're moving forward and we're not stopping or moving backwards?
No, I think we're confident, we're going forward. You know, I think we've got everything out there, and not expecting any more surprises.
All right, thank you.
Question.
Yeah.
Being that you obviously are a company that have other projects going on, in this past year, how are you seeing bids come back based on initial thought process?
Mixed. You know, we've had some that we had one, I think, came in recently pretty much right where we were. We've had some others that have come in a little high. You know, I think we're adjusting. I think the engineering community, if you will, is starting, not starting to, but is adjusted to some of those prices, you know, in terms of the estimates and recognizing that, you know, things have been going up for the last few years. And just trying to chase those cost increases.
Make sure you point out the interest rates are down, okay? Just reiterate that
We
for me.
will
Appreciate that.
certainly reassure the
Thank you.
contractors that it's cheaper to borrow money now than it has been in recent past. But, yeah, I mean, it's, as Don said, there does seem to be a lot of interest. You know, we've certainly passed the word out to any of the contractors we've worked with, and, you know, particularly ones that would be suitable for a project of this magnitude. You know, so I think we're optimistic. There's a good amount of interest, and that's part of it. You know, if the contractors know that they're bidding against other qualified contractors, that's going to help keep those bids reasonable. So,
Well, after my concerns about having an acceptable bid, my next biggest concern, I keep asking this, we're going to build this in 2 construction seasons. It's going to go from Central Square
Yeah.
to Gilbo, from March to November. Are you confident that will occur?
yeah, I mean, I think, excuse me, you know, when we first looked at it with the 3 phases, you know, we were limiting the contractors. You know, so we were pretty much confining them to really one major construction crew at a time. So, by loosening some of those restrictions up, you know, we would anticipate we may have a crew working in Central Square and a crew on the northern part of Main Street. You know, there's enough room to kind of manage traffic within Central Square with that crew and then manage traffic in Main Street. So, you know, what would have been one crew that was going to do all of Central Square in a year, now if you're allowing another crew, and you're kind of adding half of Main Street to that. You know, it's going to be a lot more work. You know, it's going to be more disruptive, but it's also going to be quicker. You know, so that's kind of the trade-off.
I just have to add, because we've seen so many projects, we just talked about one this evening, we may get to the end of the project and there could be some things that need to be wrapped up in the next season. Look at the Island Street project, which was a much smaller project, and we're coming back for final paving and final concrete sidewalks in the spring. So I think it's great that they're confident that we can get the work done in 2 seasons. I would just say that expect that we may have to do some wrap-up of final items in the following season.
And it won't go over budget. What is it? The check's in the mail, one size fits all. You know, this is an all retail thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the project will be done in 6 months. Okay, I hope so. You know, I have to live with it too.
Yeah.
As well as being a city councilor. So, any other questions? Construction, are there any other decisions that need to come out of council committees? Types of trees, sidewalks, or trash cans, anything?
No, no.
Thank you.
I will just add to what Dave said, that, you know, obviously nobody was happy that this oversight occurred. Once it was identified, I will say that Stantec, DES, the engineering division, really rallied and pulled out all the stops to make this problem go away very quickly. So DES got us comments at the end of that week once we had our conference call with them. Stantec and Dave's team turned around and responded with responses to all of their comments on the following Monday. And by that Wednesday, we had authorization to advertise. So, nobody likes that we got into that situation, but it was, I thought it was a good example of how having a good working relationship with the engineer, the owner, the regulatory bodies, we were able to pull it together and get it resolved in pretty quick fashion. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
The last item, thank you, Dave. Last item to talk about with the downtown, I wanted to invite the ombudsman up to talk about his activities over the past month. While he's coming up to the mic, I wanted to kind of circle back to a question that was asked earlier in the evening about what are we doing to support businesses during the project. And obviously, George, in his role as the ombudsman, is a big part of that program, but he's not the only part. So mostly what we're doing to support businesses is trying to communicate as much as possible. So, frequent email notifications about what's happening, what the changes are, what you can expect in the coming weeks. Working with business owners, as we've discussed in previous meetings, if there's coordination that needs to happen with ADA accessibility, utility improvements on their site, those sorts of things are things that we can do. We can't do things like directly advertise for XYZ restaurant. That wouldn't be an appropriate use of public money to do something targeted for individual businesses. But as much as we can help them with information and let them know what to expect, what's happening in the coming days and weeks and months, that's what we're committed to. We've also been pretty adamant right along that your customers will be able to get to your business. They'll be able to get you there. They may park further away. They may have to walk over gravel and through a dusty mess in order to get there, but they will be able to get to your business. So that's, a big part of it. So George will report on what he's been up to, but in the coming months, you'll start hearing more about things like hard hats, the coffee and hard hats events that we're going to start once the contractor is under contract and we're getting closer to construction, those sorts of things. So, George?
George,
Thank you,
one
Don.
sec.
Before we move to the next segment, can I just, also, we have a very creative small team of two who do social media for us and other videos and reels. And if you have seen some of them recently, it's really been focused on preparing for this downtown project. Those walk to downtown and how many minutes it takes to get from the parking lot to the downtown businesses. That's what we're focused on because people will find it easier to park in those parking lots and walk to whatever business they want to go to. And so Rebecca and Asa both are getting creative about other ways to communicate downtown as a whole is open for business. And when issues come up and perception issues come up, finding ways to address that. Now, social media isn't everything and it doesn't get to everyone, but it is helpful. And so you'll see more of that as we go forward.
Good. Thank you. Yes, George.
Thank you. George Downing, Project Ombudsman. And just to add on to what City Manager just said, I have been communicating frequently with Rebecca and Asa, and that's where some of these, they've come to me and said, what are the misperceptions? And so they've jumped on that and really gotten ahead of some of those. And we have started talking about other ways to communicate that downtown is still open. That's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, facing us from a communications perspective. And Mark Rebellard and his group are approaching that from a different direction, encouraging people to come downtown just to remind them that downtown's still here, still functional, still vibrant while this is all going on. So following last month's MSFI, I talked with several of you offline in person, and I kind of realigned my priorities. I set myself a goal to get to every business front in person in the footprint of the project before this meeting, and that might have been a little ambitious, and I'm a little bit worse for the wear, but I did actually pretty much achieve that goal. There's about 10 that I was not able to get into, mostly therapy, counseling, where if they're in their office, it's because they're meeting with a client. If they're not meeting with a client, they're not in their office. And certainly, I don't want to interrupt that, so I ended up having to use either email or phone call for maybe a dozen or so. And I've heard back from most of those as well. So with the exception of one business, which does not seem to have any way to contact them and is never within, I have met or exchanged information with everybody downtown. That involved moving much quicker than I had been previously, which is what several of you had given me some guidance on how to approach that. What that does mean is I haven't necessarily met with every business owner. I've had to speak with whoever's available when I'm in the various spaces. So there's going to be some follow-up work to do. But at this point, everybody at least has received my business card, and if they're open for business, I've been into their storefront at some point. Major concerns that I'm hearing is similar to what you've been hearing tonight from everywhere. There's still some people are questioning, is the project going to happen? I think that stems from the fact that we did delay it by a year, as well as the headlines associated with the Sentinel articles about the bidding. The bidding process, as you've heard, happened pretty much on time anyway. It does sound like there's some interest in the project, but there is maybe some wishful thinking from some people that maybe we're not going to quite get there. When are we starting is probably the biggest thing I'm asked. Obviously it's weather dependent, but we all know pretty much what that schedule is. Detailed phasing people want, which we won't have until we have a construction team on. So as soon as I have that, I'm going to have to start distributing that to people, particularly when is their business particularly going to be impacted. That's the important information that people need. And parking. And you guys hear about parking all the time. You heard about parking before this project ever even came up. Now, it's exasperated. People are concerned that their clients won't be able to park, their customers won't be able to park. And again, once we have more detailed plans about the phasing, we'll be able to tell people exactly where they can go. That's one of the things I'm talking with Rebecca and Asa about, as to how we can most effectively communicate that so the whole community knows how they can still come down and effectively get to where they're going. And related traffic flow, there's concerns that all of downtown will be shut down to traffic for the whole duration, which I don't think that's ever been considered for this project. And as I understand it, most of construction plans at this time have full traffic flow with just lanes closed off, which has been encouraging to people. But people are concerned. It's been good. I've liked meeting everybody. That's why I was interested in this position in the first place. I'd say most people are somewhere in between concerned and focused on what's next. How do we get through this? How do we help each other? How will the city help me? So that's what we're navigating right now. What's next is going to be the follow-up visits. Some people had questions that I'm going to have to get answered from either Public Works or from other city departments and bring those answers back to people, or connect them directly, depending on the nature of the question. Meeting with owners specifically that I wasn't able to catch the first time through. I've actually got some of those scheduled in the next couple weeks after the Thanksgiving break, so to speak. Obviously, nobody wants to meet with me on Black Friday. They're going to be a little busy, but I have had people reach out to start scheduling meetings. And I'm also going to have to go back to some businesses and gather more of the information that the construction teams are going to need, things like business hours, busiest seasons, busiest days of the week, delivery schedules, the type of stuff that Dawn and Brian were talking about, having to coordinate closely to make sure that downtown functions through this process. I did not spend as much time as I had been earlier getting every little bit of detail because I wanted to get through to everybody. And so I'll be going back and gathering that on a more time frame that's more suitable to the people I'm meeting with. And then, documenting everything that I've done. I've got to start building the database that includes all of this information so that people can sort through and find it. When it's time to construct, the first block on Main Street, we need to be able to know who's on that block and what their delivery schedules, what their busy times are, and how to coordinate with them. And the paperworky type stuff that I told you about last month, I put all of that off for a month. The frequently asked questions document, the business binders that we want to get out to people. We're going to start putting that stuff together. So that's what I've been doing. I'm happy for more questions and feedback. As I've said, we're kind of building this position from the ground up, so feedback is welcome.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just really quickly, first of all, appreciate the work that you're doing. I think I speak for the committee and council when I say that. Saw you out there today, walking the downtown. I guess that, you know, in hearing about, we have the social media push around some of this stuff. I know we have an email list. Is it your impression, or have you been asking about, as you've been meeting with downtown business owners or just downtown employees, are they signed up for the email list? Are they tuned into the social media? Are these things reaching the people that are going to be most impacted by this project?
That is one of the things I've been doing as I go around, is letting them know how to connect with it. Many of them already are. When I came into this position, we had 5 different contact lists from various sources, and most of those were from the opt-in lists that already exist. I am one of the pages in the business binder that will go out to everybody downtown will be a connections page. Basically, it'll have my information. It'll have specific instructions on how to sign up for that, and how to get the downtown information. I know if any of you have been to the link, there's 18 to 20 categories you can sign up for. So I make sure to highlight the one that does focus on the downtown information. So not everybody knew it was there. Some people are not interested in another email, but I do make sure that they know it's there and how to reach it.
Thank you.
Yep, anybody? Anyone? Yep, Laura?
One question I have is just sort of around residents and how well it's been going connecting with residents, people who live downtown.
Virtually impossible. Most of the residents are in the upstairs, and those spaces are locked. I can't even get into them. I did end up in 2 residential spaces above downtown businesses because they're in the same access as the upstairs businesses. And the residents really looked like they were going to call the police on me. It's the only time I've had to pull out my city ID for anything since I received one. I think what I need to do is get a hold of the leasing agents, the property managers from downtown, and talk with them about how to communicate with their residents. In fact, I was going to meet with Dawn after the Thanksgiving, to ask how I go about doing that. It's a different animal entirely. Businesses mostly are welcoming of people walking in their front door. Residents are really not. So I think my initial approach is going to be to get a hold of the various property managers downtown and work through them. As the project gets closer, what we'll have to rely on, I think, is informational door hanger effectively, although there's not door handles, but information put on the front door spaces to all of the apartment downtown to let them know when their specific area is going to be impacted.
That's a really good
Yeah,
one.
it's a very good question, and it's one that I have been trying to figure out how to deal with.
I would dare say none of my residents know what's going on. On a good day.
So
Yes.
to that end,
Oh, that's
Mr. Chair, I think George's idea of going through the property managers is a very good one. The other thing that's been in the back of my mind, once we have a little bit more information to share with the tenants, is doing what's called an every door direct mail. We've used it for this project before, but it basically allows us to send like an informational card, like those political mailers, for example, to every mail recipient within a postal route. So with, there's some cost to it, obviously, but it would actually put it in the hands of each tenant within the project area. So I would like to do something like that where we say, projects moving forward, please come to this website address in order to learn more. So just to help get that information out to the tenants.
good. Yep.
One more, just, I want to make sure this is addressed at some point, but in terms of what people do for work and how they might be affected, and one thing I'm thinking about is the noise. So there are certain days when people who are in offices or work from home, it's going to be very difficult. And I just want to make sure that we're kind of clear about setting that expectation and that sort of time frame that, you know, whether it is for these days or this week, this is going to be the noise level in this area in some way.
Yeah, that's come up with some of the specific businesses that have been in there. They've, depending on what they do for service, there's different concerns. Obviously, retail is simply, are people going to be able to get to my business? You know, the spa, the hair salons, there's a lot of spas and hair salons, and they all rely on water. So they need to know when their water is going to be off. Same with food service, has both of those concerns. And some of them have talked about the noise levels. And a lot of it comes down to that specific phasing, the specific scheduling. When are they going to be working close to these locations? That's, you know, when I have that, I'll be sharing that with everybody. But yeah, that's actually a good point. A couple of businesses have brought noise levels and vibration levels specifically about what are the expectations from the construction team, and how long will you know, my space be enduring the worst of it. So yeah, we are actually trying to cover that one. That to some degree falls under the category of it's construction, and it's going to be here. But you know, even when they're not right in front of your building.
Anything else? Anyone? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, who makes the motion? Laura, you're up.
Move to accept the downtown construction report as informational.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anything further? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I think that concludes our agenda. And thank the staff that was here and the public that came, and wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. And this concludes meeting number
84.
84.